Peace, family. This your brother, Mr. Holipsism, here today with a show topic entitled, what am I talking about? Titled, Top 10 Nationhood Escape Hatches. What are the top 10 nationhood escape hatches? In other words, what are the main excuses you hear of why Black African people should not have a nation state or nationhood on the continent of our ancestors? Join us tonight. We are interested to hear what line of bullshit you've come across as well. I want to jump right into this because I only got an hour. But what I want to talk about is I want to go from 10 to 1. 10 to number 1. I was hoping, what my goal was is I was hoping that I can get, like some people in the caller queue, and then I can break it down, each one with a caller. But since we don't have, a lot of callers in the queue right now, I guess because Empire or something must be on, some TV show or baseball game or sporting event must be on, I'm not going to get much love tonight. So I'm just going to talk and, do my thing. Number 10, reason. Number 10, nationhood escape hatch. Continental Africans are coming to the States/Europe to leave the chaos already there for better opportunities in America. I think I know who this caller is, so I'm going to bring him in and see if he wants to deal with this number 10. I wanted him to deal with one down the line, but I'm going to see if he wants to deal with this. If you are interested in coming in, raise your hand, brother. I see you in the queue.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, there you go. What's up,
Hey,
Collar?
what's going on, brother? What's going on, brother?
This is Collar Genesis of the Collar Nation. Everybody, y'all should know him by now.
Yep. If you don't know, get to know me.
So that's the number 10, man. That's the 10 reasons.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, you got to understand something. This is not anything new. Negroes have been basically stalling the return to Africa for 400 years. You would think, I've studied, even back in the 1600s, 90% of black people wanted anything but America. When they lived in America as slaves or free people who were kidnapped and sold back into slavery, racist, brutality, lynching, just no opportunity. Black people have always yearned for, let's take our knowledge and build it over in Africa and civilize Africa, rebuild Africa. But there's always been a group of black people who somehow or another always usually escape the direct confrontation with white folks, and they take white people's acquiescence or face value friendliness as hope that America is not a bad country or whatever. These people, the same type of people, will watch a black man on an auctioning block and have no feelings whatsoever towards him. They'll watch a black man get lynched right in front of them. Well, it ain't me. You know those type,
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll ignore anything good that's going on in Africa, and they'll only focus on the negativity. You know what I'm saying? It must be torment for those type of black people. It must be torment for those type of black people, because every once in a while they'll have a racial incident. Somebody say, "Nigga, get out of here, go back to Africa," and those are the same ones who sit there. I'm an American. I'm just as American as you are. Just say the old thing. And then those type of people will. The whole thing is this. This is the sad part about it. Those people will go out of their way to basically not only make sure there's an escape hatch, but they'll burn any bridge to Africa to make sure that America has to take them. In other words, basically, if you tell the Chinese, like, let me give you an example. When the Japanese were coming over here in large numbers and the Asians coming in large numbers, right? America passed two things: the Oriental Exclusion Act, and there's a gentleman's agreement with the Japanese. Okay. The Japanese government agreed to stop sending Japanese migrants to Hawaii and the United States, and the continental United States, and outright banned Chinese immigrants from the United States Oriental Exclusion Act, right? Well, those people didn't throw a hissy fit. A lot of them voluntarily left America. You don't want us? We got something to go back to. You know what I'm saying? It was no big deal. They say, okay, you don't want us here? We got something to go back to. Black people basically go out of their way to say, I got no connection with Africa. I'm an American. I don't know anything about this, that, and the other thing. And basically, instead of them building bridges with Africa, they go out of their way to distance themselves, right? So they could tell white people, look, I'm more white, I'm more American than closer to American than I am black. See, people like that live in a constant state of hell, you know. And
but what would
therefore,
you do to directly, what would you do to directly counter that number 10?
Well, exactly what I did when I wrote my novel. What I did was, and when you read my novel carefully, right, what I did was this. I talked about different, what was going on in Liberia at the time. While black people were getting lynched, killed, hung, everything, there were people in Liberia who settled in Liberia who built successful farms, successful masonry businesses, successful carpenters, successful shipping companies, all these things living in comfort and were able to build small towns and cities like they were in America, black ruled, you know, were able to vote in their own government. With sovereignty, they could walk down the street. So therefore, I contrast that in my novel to the fact that they were hearing stories about black people getting dragged out of their homes, beaten and lynched, and all this stuff like that. So therefore, anybody who reads that will say, well, geez, if I was living back then, I would have freaking left. Because it seemed like Liberia was the only sanctuary the black man had. You know, so therefore, we have to keep telling the story of Liberia. You know what I'm saying? We have to keep telling that because people have this novelty that outside of America, all black man was living in hell. That it's like somebody living in prison for years. You know, he thinks that, I'm better off in prison because out there, you know, you got to get a job, you got to work for yourself, you can end up back in jail and all stuff like that. You know, so you got to say something. You're talking about people that's in captivity. No matter how much abuse they take, you know, until you show them an example of people living outside of this thing and success. That's why we got to keep shining the light on black people that have successfully went to the continent or live overseas, not just Africa, but live overseas and they're successful. What about the black community that did pretty well, that went to the Dominican Republic, Panama, you know, Haiti, Paris, France, you know, successful black communities that went to South Africa, Liberia. There was even African Americans who went to Russia. People don't know that history. You know, so the whole idea of brother.
Just look at the question itself. Well, like when they say continental Africans are coming to the States and Europe to leave the chaos already there for better opportunities in America, as if chaos isn't in America. That's just crazy.
As if chaos is not in America. Like which we call I hear Republican candidates say, America has to be the force of good around the world. Well, America, if you really look at it, has caused most of the conflict that goes on around the world has been started by America. Every Tin Pot dictator you see, every conflict you see in the third world, the Middle East, everything, has American geopolitical interest at the root of it.
Yep.
You know, so black people in America have the same mentality of American exceptionalism. You know, but it works for them.
You know what I'm going to do, Kala? What I'm going to do is what I was initially going to do, because I kind of figured that maybe some ball game or something is on.
Probably
I was going to bring in a caller. Yeah, I was going to bring in a caller with each thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it, and then I'm going to, since you're with me, I'm going to bring you in after I introduce it.
All right, okay.
Okay?
No problem.
So the next one we got is number 9. Remember, number 10 was continental Africans are coming to the States and Europe to leave the chaos already there for better opportunities in America. I'll just add one more thing before I move on, that there are more black billionaires in Africa than there are in America. Boom, end of discussion. Number 9, the land must have an indigenous African name first. I want to go over this. This is another typical escape hatch and a stalling tactic, because whenever I ask people what the land should be named, they always cop out and tell me, oh, well, you should go to council this and seek counsel from this one and go and talk to so-and-so and this and that. I'm like, this just seems like an odd response from somebody that has such a really big issue with the name. We use Afrikstan as a placeholder, as a descriptor of the land that we're talking about. If people have a problem with that, then I would think that you would have a name in your utility belt that you would pull out, just to say, well, instead of using that, use this, and that way I can look at it and go, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Because it would be cool to have an indigenous African name. But the point that I made on YouTube to a brother is that I think that to have a 100% indigenous African name doesn't really speak to our experience. Because remember, we're in captive land. We're prisoners of war in another land for 400 years. We developed our culture on this land. So are we just supposed to throw that out the window and become 100% indigenous to Africa, or come up with a 100% indigenous African name, when that doesn't really speak to our experience? And it's not to make a separation. I mean, we're all African. But what I'm saying is, if you're telling me that our name should reflect our experience, then how can it be 100% indigenous if we weren't even on the continent? If we had to develop our culture in the midst of our enemies here in America, shouldn't our name kind of reflect that too? And I want to give Carl a chance to build with that. Where is it at? Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, Carl, what do you think about that point?
You're exactly right. Let me give you an example. The name Nigeria comes from what? The word Niger, which is French for black. Nigeria. Okay? No one has a problem with it. Sierra Leone is not an indigenous name. It was named something after Sierra Madres, whatever. It's a Portuguese name. Okay? So is Senegal. So is the Ivory Coast. So is Cameroon. Cameroon is a Portuguese name. South Africa is English. And so most of these lands in Africa are basically named by colonists. The cities, Leopoldville, all these things here. There, Lagos in Portuguese means lakes. But no one, and people proudly call themselves Lagosians. But no one says anything. But when it comes to African Americans, suddenly all the rules change. You know what I'm saying? Suddenly all the rules change and everything like that. There's this big laundry list of things that we must do before we are talking about being African. In other words, the continental African wants to validate himself. These people for the most part, have the lowest self-esteem of any group of people on the planet. And the whole thing is this is why African Americans can be successful in nation building, right? See, 400 years of living in America has hardwired us to hard work, suffering, sacrifice, perseverance, resilience, all these things, and basically going without. In other words, we don't have any nobility. We don't have like groups of people, except for our churches, our pimps in our churches, and our mosques and everything like that. But for the most part, we don't have any nobility or people that basically are going to get higher office or rule just because they're born with a certain bloodline and name. We don't have that. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that's one of the benefits of us. So we basically could start off fresh and new. So given that, why would we want to basically say, okay, I'm going to go and adopt a lineage from the Igbo tribe? Well, you're talking about a culture that's been unbroken for so many years, right? So I got to go and it's an experience. Everything you see about the Igbos or Yoruba is because of the oral tradition or things that was handed down through experience, right? Our experience has been different for 400 years. Our worldview is based on race, and color. We don't have a worldview based on some deity or some sorcery or whatever the Africans do. You know what I'm saying? Are there things that in our culture that are similar? Yes, we could build on those things. But to just wholesalely just think we're going to forget who we are, forget some of our customs and what way we think about the world, way we see our music, dance, and some of our jingoism and all the stuff like that. I think we're just going to dump all that and just adopt that African culture when it's foolish. This is why they keep failing.
And it's also a lack of understanding of what African culture actually is, because I have always said our culture is African culture.
It is. It is.
It's not no subculture.
Yeah, what the problem is this. The problem is this. When you have Africans, right, they see African American, like that incident where the lady said African Americans shouldn't adopt the African culture, appropriate it. And it was a big uproar. Remember that? It was a big uproar. And what she said was, well, African Americans dominate everything and whatnot. When they start taking African culture and whatnot, that's all we got left. She's living in England with a white man, probably sipping latte and drinking wine and doing everything as a European, being Afro-chic European. But yet she wants to basically have this African pretension that we shouldn't go there. That's something that they hold on to. That's, in other words, basically what the whole thing is, they want to deny us the one thing that we don't have, is our connection to the motherland. You know what I'm saying?
And at the same time, simultaneously stealing our Western culture,
right,
with no problem. Nobody's supposed to even question when you do it.
Let me give you an example.
But now your particular continental African culture is so precious that it can't even be expressed by another African in America.
Let me give you an example. Let me show you how advanced African American culture is over African culture. Let me tell you how advanced we are. The top 3 actors that played 3 critical roles was Lupita, right? Chiwetel Ejiofor played Solomon Northup in 12 Years a Slave. Top actor. No one says you're not African American, you can't play that role. We don't care. David Oyelowo, top actor, played Martin Luther King. Do you think anybody one African American would dare say you're not African American, you can't play a role? We don't do that. Let me give you an example. Historically, Sidney Poitier is from the islands. Harry Belafonte is from the islands. They play Buck and the Preacher. Stokely Carmichael is from Trinidad. You know what I'm saying? Kwame Nkrumah is from Ghana. He came over here and pastored a black church. Marcus Garvey is from Jamaica. African Americans have always embraced the idea that black is black, we're all African. That's a Pan-African worldview. You know what I'm saying? African culture and the native African covet their tribalism. And this is why they can never get any place. And you think I'm going to freaking adopt that as what we're going to do so we can start killing each other based on tribe or whatever? If you live in one part of the African, I live on the other part of the African, by their logic is we should be a tribe because we live over here in this part, you live a tribe, then we fighting each other.
And people are actually arguing with, well, you know what, I'm going to move on because I got to go through all 10 of these. But I just want to make this one point before I move on. People is arguing with me that tribalism is the way to go.
These people are uneducated.
Isn't that crazy?
Because it's simply because they're not educated. When you think tribalism is when you're in your primitive state. People evolved from tribalism over thousands of years of human civilization, contact, development, trade, intermarriage, war.
Well, let's not get into it because I got to move on to the next one, but we will come back to that one. Just bear with me a second. I want to go to number 8, which is kind of in line with number 9, and I'm going to bring my brother Mac in for this one. You there, Mac? Hello? No, he must be doing something. Hold on, so I'll put him back on mute. Raise your hand, Mac, when you're ready. Number 8 is, where we at? Number 8 is, we must speak an indigenous African language first. Now, before I let Carla comment on this, I'm going to build on this for a little bit. And I'm trying to give each one of these like 5 minutes so we can get through them all. But I'll be short. Nonsensical. Because even the people who believe, and keep in mind, if I could snap my fingers and we can speak an indigenous African language right now, I would do it. I understand the importance of speaking in your native tongue. Totally get it. I get all of the reasons, all the talking points. I'm not in disagreement with it. But in terms of practicality, it makes absolutely no sense. Because how are you going to develop an indigenous African language here in America? Don't you have to have your land in order to do that? And like the brother said on a previous show, it's probably going to take about 4 or 5 generations before that African language becomes commonplace and actually where you can use it as a form of trade, a trade language. So, yeah, you make it on one side, it makes sense theoretically, but when you look at it from a practical standpoint, it doesn't make any sense because right now, if Africans in America want to establish a nation state on the continent, their national language initially has to be, or their lingua franca initially has to be English because that's what we speak. We don't speak another language. So if you're saying, oh, well, we can't establish a nation state until we speak an indigenous African language, so you're talking about 4 or 5 generations from now, that's when our nation state should be established? You are out of your goddamn mind. And let me bring Carla in on that one.
Oh, yeah, like I said, this is another stall tactic. Let me give you an example. Like Minister Dawood said, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, whatever, then he gave the mathematical equation. It's still the same thing, right? Ethiopia, a few years ago, what they did was this. They said, well, they took the periodic table of elements. You know, oxygen is O2 and hydrogen and stuff. You know, you remember that in high school, right? The periodic table of elements, right? And instead of oxygen and nitrogen and all that, they named these. They did this and renamed all these things in an Ethiopian language. You know what I'm saying? So they had the periodic table of elements. The Japanese did the same thing. And since they have a language that's already established, right? See, part of the reason why people use English, right? This is very, very important. Is because African culture, and people don't realize this, was largely illiterate when the Europeans came there. We had high literacy in Timbuktu and cities like that, in Kano and the Muslim areas, you know. But for the most part, tropical Africa, that's where we come from, tropical Africa. Let's put it like this. Let me put it in perspective, black people. You're not from North Africa. You're not a Moor. You're from tropical Africa, 99% of us. 99% of us were illiterate. We didn't have all books. We didn't have learning. We didn't have any of that stuff like that. So when the Europeans or the Americo-Liberians in Liberia established the first modern educational system, right, you had to learn English or whatever colonizer who settled there, their language as a medium of instruction. So therefore, books, you can't translate. In other words, basically, if you're already a literate culture, right, you can easily translate that into your native culture. But if you don't have a writing system already in place, the only way you can be literate is to learn the incoming language. African Americans like this, we speak English, right? We have an almanac. You ever see the African American almanac? The thing is like 14 inches. We have a well-documented history. We have an encyclopedia. We have a well-documented history and Smithsonian, probably the most extensive. We're probably the most extensively written about people, a group of black people in the world. Our culture has more influence. Our culture, music, language, our lingo, even our Gullah languages and everything is studied. We are probably the most influential group of people on the planet. Only thing we do not have is control over our own destiny as a way to engage the world outside of the prisms of white supremacy and white domination in America. So language is the last thing we need. All we need basically is a land and our own media and all the things that and the world can engage us and see a new image of a black man from a position of independence. You know, now other people who have an indigenous language, first they have to basically develop their own alphabet, their own language, their own dictionary. How are you going to develop a written language and you don't have a dictionary? African Americans, we have our own dictionary. We even have even languages, words we added onto the English language. You know, we even added words. We were added to the English language. So say we don't speak English. English is not our language is disingenuous.
Right.
You know, so it's just just one more. And also, let me tell you something. I'm gonna touch on something. Now, tell me if you agree with this.
Well, make it short because I got to get through all of these.
Okay. I get the impression that a lot of people. And I'm saying this, right? And, like this, I think a lot of people who call themselves pro-African and all that, I think they're really ashamed of being African American. They're ashamed they have the same view of Africa. So they escape the so-called African culture, but they haven't really studied African culture, the way it is. Africans do a lot of things that I consider ignorant, backwards, and stuff like that.
Oh well, don't get too ahead because you're going a little bit ahead of where I'm going. So just keep that thought because I'm gonna touch back on it.
Right.
The next one is 7, and this one is me and yours favorite. Number 7 is, we didn't come from Africa. We were already here. Now, before Kyla speaks on this, DNA tests have already been done, and they've already established that the vast majority of African Americans here in America came from Africa. There's a small percentage, very small percentage, that would be considered indigenous to North America. Very small percentage. Now, I know if you go on YouTube and if you go on Facebook, you'll think the exact opposite of what I'm telling you. But if you do your research and you study and you see the test and the DNA that's been, and then when you bring that point up to these people, then they start questioning the DNA test. Oh, is the DNA test is rigged? It's like, okay, so you just got a built-in excuse for anything to try to justify being somebody else other than what you are. Bottom line is, we're African. So let me see what Carla has to say about that.
Yeah, this is what the thing is he had that one dude running around with the Jerry curl talking about African Americans ain't African. And how is this I don't want to curse on the air, how does Emma got like 100,000 views on YouTube? You know, and there's a huge market for people who everybody knows in the back. This is what I'm saying. Everybody know going back to Africa, building a nation is the right thing to do. But they're going to buck it and fight it to the last thing. And there's a huge market for people who, there's a lot of profit to be made with Negroes who coming in, who are sounding cool, like your Malachi Yorks and everything, and telling you, I ain't African, we ain't African, we're the Nuwapian, blah, 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 shit, blah, 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 you know? And we have, so you can make a lot of money. These black people will pay you if you can make your argument sound credible, and you can attack these so-called Black African people, the Hebrew Israelites. I would love to get these brothers on the street, man. We'll run up on them, grab one of them, and stick the toothbrush in their mouth, and get the DNA sample and run. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, we're gonna do that, man. We're gonna tackle one of these brothers and put one of those swabs in their mouth. You know, swab you like George Wilbur said. You run to the DNA office. He goes, swab your mouth, swab your baby mouth, you know, and run to the DNA center. You know, these dudes run from the DNA man like they run from child support. You know, we're gonna be out there, we're out there. We're gonna hold up those swabs. It's gonna be like holding knives. Who? They're here with swabs. Let's get out of here. And we're like ninja, trying to poke them with the DNA to get some DNA sample. You know,
African as hell and trying to be Native American is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think we touched on.
Yeah, it just so happened all the people that they lie with, Peruvians, Hondurans, Puerto Ricans, all the honeys to justify them chasing after Puerto Rican honeys.
Yeah, like there was definitely Puerto Ricans back in ancient times, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they were speaking Spanish. They were speaking Borica, the Borica tribe. I have never seen anything like this in my life. It's like, I'm glad I left New York. Hold up, man. How do you deal with that?
Why do you think I'm coming up with all of this stuff? Why all of this terminology that I'm coming up with is addressing certain things that's happening? This Negro stalling tactics, these escape hatches. We use these things over and over again to justify staying in America, not moving, staying in the same situation.
Doing exactly what you were at, standing on a street corner, trying to sell a book or CD and whatnot, this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to tell you right now, I got no respect for anybody who makes their living selling CDs on a street corner. No respect. I will not buy a CD from you. I don't give a damn what you try to say. I don't care what you're trying to say. If you're on a damn street corner and popping off your own man-made, your homemade religion, trying to, I hate Christianity, this, that, and the other thing, but listen to my religion. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, leave it right there because that's going to be a nice segue into what's coming next.
Okay.
This is the number 6, escape hatch that Negroes use to avoid nationhood. We must become spiritual and moral first. And I'm going to touch on this one because I made some videos. Like most of this stuff I made videos about, but I'm just going to retouch on it so people can know. You don't go to the corner store bodega to get spirituality. You don't go to Dwayne Reed or CVS to pick up morality. Morality and spirituality and all of these highfalutin concepts have to exist within a context. We are the most spiritual people here in America. We Christians, we Moors, we Hebrews, we 5%, we everything, every form of Christian denomination, Protestant, Baptist, 7-day event, all of this stuff. We are the most spiritual people in America. How come we ain't got no power? How come we don't have socioeconomic and political control over our reality? So the very thing that you want, this spiritual... See, when you say you want spirituality and morality, what you basically are saying, and you don't even realize it, you're trying to control how people act. That's basically what it is. You want to control how people act. Now, in a lot of ways, sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it can be bad. If you're looking at it from the perspective of you want people to behave and act in a civilized manner, then you have to control the context that those people live in. If you don't control the context that they live in, if you don't control the infrastructure, the socioeconomic and political context, the land, then all you're doing is really giving your opinion of what you think people should do. Are you making any laws? Are you establishing any policy? Is there any system in place that can punish people if they don't do what you say they should do? You know what I'm saying? You want spirituality and morality within the context. It's almost like you want it inside of a jail cell. Like I always make this analogy of the guy that's free in his mind, but his body's locked in jail. You know, that's a great psychological trick to help you deal with the severity of your situation. But in reality, you're not free until your ass ain't in that jail no more. And that's what we're dealing with here in America. You know what I'm saying? So if you really want spirituality and morality first, you have to establish a nation state first and get a context so that you can arrange your lifestyle and arrange society in the way that you want society to be. But you're not going to arrange shit here in America. You can join whatever religion you want. You know what I'm saying? You can claim to be as spiritual as you want, but if you're not controlling the land, if you're not controlling the infrastructure and controlling the socioeconomic and political context of your reality, all you are is a tenant living in somebody else's house. And I'm going to let Carla touch on that just for briefly, Carla, because I got to move on. There's a few more.
Okay, yeah, I just want to think. Remember that David Allen Greer skit on Living Color where they locked up in jail? He says, yeah, and he says, like, he started reading stuff, he started reading positive stuff, and then he said, and he stroked her breasts, and he goes, and he starts screaming, get me out of here. The bottom line, you can say all you want. If you locked up, you can have an out-of-body experience all you want. Your ass is locked up. Them bars are real. You know, so you can have an out-of-body experience. You can have one with the universe, but it really comes down to it. When it comes down to after you lower your vibration levels, and you come off whatever you're coming off of, you are back in the same situation. The rent man is going to knock on the door the first of the month. So is the light bill man, and so is everything else. That's your situation is not going to change. And like you said earlier, was a thing. A lot of these people, because they can't really show you what they mean by spirituality, what they do is this: they play on guilt. Spirituality, and you know who's big on this? The vegan people. You know, the vegan people. And I said, well, so what you got against vegan? I said because I know it has nothing to do with health or anything like that. Some people really do believe it's health, even though there's evidence to show that they showed this one lady who's a veganist. She looks like she's 100 years old, and one lady shows like that she looks like she eats meat. She looks like she's young, in her 20s, same age, 51. Well, anyway, my point is this: a lot of these people just simply want to be able to control other people's lives. You know what I'm saying? They tell you when you ask them, so what is spirituality? No, give me an example. Where is it? Is it around the corner? Is it in the box? Is it under the table? Where is it? Well, no, it's spirituality. No, I don't know. You said spirituality.
Yeah, that's because you know why nobody wants to address it? It's because spirituality is what you do.
Yeah.
That's all.
But no one can tell me that's a prerequisite. we got to be spiritual. What the hell is it's like? What are you talking about? He asked them that. They actually get mad.
Yeah, because they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. If you say to me, when you say you got to be spiritual, then I'm like, all right, what we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like being spiritual is what, sitting in the lotus position, being one with the universe. That's what spirituality is. Yeah,
spirituality. Everybody sitting around a séance, and singing hymns and meditating. Do you feel the vibration? You feel the vibration, people. Feel the. I feel it too.
I'm gonna knock out these next ones, but I want to bring you in for number 2 because that's your wheelhouse right there.
Okay.
Because we're running out of time. So let me knock these out, and I'll be right back to you. Okay. Number 5, we can't have different religions, beliefs, faiths, or spiritual systems and have a nation at the same time. What about America? Aren't you living in a place that has different religions, beliefs, faiths, or spiritual systems, and it's a nation last time I checked? You see, this is the thing that I really have a problem with is we always acting as if things that other people do is just totally normal. It's like nobody even questions it. But when it comes to applying that same thing that other people do to us, then all of a sudden people start giving you 1,000 reasons why you can't do it. Like, not only do we have different religions, beliefs, faiths, and spiritual systems, we have different lifestyles here in America. We have people that are flaming homosexuals here in America. We got people that's into, and I won't even talk about the illegal activity. I'll talk about just, what people would consider perversions. People that's into all types of hardcore sex acts and, all of this stuff that's going on. This is happening right here in this very nation that you are offended by. But what are you doing about it? What can you do about it? Not a damn thing, except bitch and moan and complain. So don't tell me that we can have different religions, beliefs, faiths, spiritual systems, blah, 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 lifestyles, perversions. All of that stuff is wrapped up in a nice little bow and packaged right here in America, and you are living here, you are paying your taxes, you are empowering this system by buying its goods and its services and living in this infrastructure, and you ain't raising not one finger to bring this stuff down, nor to establish your own, which is why we got this show topic tonight, which is classic escape hatches. Number 4, continental Africans don't like us. Whenever I hear this, this one is particularly annoying to me because it's like if I tell somebody 2 plus 2 is 4, and that person says, well, I don't think you should tell people that 2 plus 2 is 4 because people don't really like that when you say that. What the hell do I care? What is 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 is 4. If people want to think it's 5, that's their problem. They're delusional. And why am I appeasing or trying to pander to people that's delusional? Continental Africans don't like us. First of all, that statement isn't 100% true because I have plenty of continental Africans that I deal with, and they like me. I like them. They consider me brothers. See, I don't judge continental Africans by a lot of the continental Africans that's here in this country because they're basically hypocrites. A lot of them. The immigrants coming into this country are hypocrites because what you really came into this country for is the infrastructure, as College pointed out plenty times. That's what you came here for. And I meant to say that when we were talking about number 10, about the continental Africans coming to the States. They're not coming to the States because there's less chaos and better opportunities. They're coming to the States for running water, electricity, and gas. So this whole thing about them not liking us, first of all, that's irrelevant. Don't really care whether a continental African doesn't like me or not. There's plenty that do. There's going to be some that don't. But ultimately, that's not what my concern is. I'm African. That's what I am. And that's not up for debate. Continental Africans do not control the market on Africanism. They don't. Africanism is expressed here in America. Africanism is expressed all over the diaspora. We don't need to have no signature of approval from continental Africans. And I'm saying that without any malice or without any ill intent. I'm just stating it what it is. Our culture is valid. Our culture is African culture. Just because we lived in America for 400 years does not mean that we stop being African. So raising that point about continental Africans don't like us, especially within the context of a nation state on the land, listen, we were ripped from our homeland, ripped from our motherland, and put into a foreign land for close to 500 years, 400 to 500 years. Africa is our birthright. If the damn Chinese can come over to Africa, if the European and all of these other European nations can come over to Africa and carve out their piece of existence in Africa, how the hell is a continental African going to say that an African American doesn't have a place on the motherland? F you. Number 3, racism and white supremacy is a global system. So no matter where you go or what you build, the white man will destroy it. Let me ask you a question. What is the difference between that statement and the mindset that it takes to make it and this?
Look, boy, I'm tired of hearing about how you got knocked out and how you did this and that. And let's get something straight. You still my bitch, boy. You'll always be that. On Mars, on Pluto, on the earth, heaven, hell, you still my bitch. And I better not kiss your ass standing on no toilet peeing either.
What's the difference? What's the difference? You are basically saying that you are a bitch. You're saying that the white man is so powerful. The white man is Thanos, Galactus, Darkseid, all of them into one. There's nothing that you can do. There's nowhere on the planet Earth that you can go. As a matter of fact, a lot of y'all believe that if you went to Mars, the white man, racism and white supremacy would affect you there. So you're basically saying that you're a bitch. See, this is the thing that I had a conversation with somebody about this, about the difference between the Palestinians and the Iraqis and all the people in those war-torn areas and black folks here in America. The difference is our backs aren't against the wall like those people. We can very well have the same type mentality when it comes to how they deal with reality if we were in the same position. See, we can always go to a bar, we can go to a restaurant, we can muse at a cafe with our legs crossed, sipping on some latte about, oh, man, this white supremacist system, and it's so bad for us here in America. Listen, America is like the Taj Mahal compared to Iraq, compared to certain places in the Middle East and in certain parts of Africa. We have so many disadvantages living here because it's a first world system that we're living in. So don't compare your poor to the poor of Iraq and India. Because if we were in a situation where our backs were to the wall, where if let's say we decide to establish a nation state on the land peacefully, not being confrontational, no negative rhetoric and violent rhetoric toward the United States or anybody else, just a place where we can go and have our own and be a nation amongst our people. Let's say that the United States decided they're going to drone attack us. We will be just like these radical Islamic Muslims overnight. Because what they basically would be telling us is there's no place on earth that you can go where I will allow you to be in peace. And our response would then be, well, then guess what? There's not a place on this earth where you will be at peace. I'm going to make sure that we're going to send as much drama to you as you send into us. It's so easy. We're like on a thread of civility based on our situation. Let those little conveniences be taken away, and you think these other groups are bad. We'll put them to shame. So this whole thing about the white man is going to do, listen, it's very possible. There might be somebody in your neighborhood that says, yo, if you come outside, I'm going to F you up and I'm going to take your wallet and take your money. What you going to do? You going to stay in your house forever? You going to stay in your apartment forever? At some point, it doesn't matter what everybody else wants to do or what they think they're going to do. What matters is what you want. And if you don't feel that you have a right to be a human being and a right to have power and a right to live in peace amongst your own people, then guess what? Guess what?
Yeah, I'm gonna bust you. My stuff. Bust you. I'm gonna bust you. I got to You my stuff. You my stuff.
Yeah, you somebody's stuff. So on to the next one. Number 2, Liberia. Let's bring in our brother, College Genesis.
Yeah,
you got 5 minutes, brother. Knock it out.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. Yeah, look, the whole thing is this. The reason why I took a year and a half to write a novel, right? Now, you know I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that novel, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote that novel for the community, right? And I didn't even really make any money off the book. The book's selling, but I ain't even got any royalties yet from it yet. Look, when I read this history, I knew the history of Liberia for a long time, right? But I was on the thing where I was just like anybody else. I hated Americo-Liberians for years. You know, I was like, yo, we got to be native, indigenous Africans. Then, it was like 6 years ago, right? I always liked Liberia, right? But from a different standpoint. But I always hated the idea of Americo-Liberians or African Americans returning to Africa, building a nation, and all stuff like that. I could not identify it. I did not realize the majesty and the magnitude of what they did. Think about this, in the 19th century. In the 19th century, with those slave ships plying the ocean, they sailed back and built the republic. When I actually sat back and read, and what happened was this. I read something, and I read some books. I bought some books on Liberia, right? And this one book was written by a Jewish author, right? And I noticed like the whole narrative, and then I learned some things about some of the massacres that the settlers went through with the natives, and how the settlers stopped the slave trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I read this one book, right, and a newspaper article, and they were talking about Liberia, and they were saying, well, the American-Liberians went back there and oppressed the native Liberians. And I said, well, why didn't he mention the fact that the native Liberians were involved in the slave trade? Then I saw that was a common theme. I said, now, why is the world taking sides? No, why is it that everybody knew it was clear that slavery was going on the coast, and the American-Liberians' first rule was to stop the slave trade with the help of the British and the United States Navy, stop the slave trade. In fact, most of the slaves that were intercepted on the high seas were returned to Liberia. They were just dropped off. You were coming from the Cameroon, whatever. They dropped them off, and the Republic of Liberia settled these people as a place of refuge. It was a place of refuge for Black African Americans, ex-slaves, and free people who wanted to live in a Black rule republic. I'm saying to myself, think about that. In a world of white domination, white lynchings, white persecution, a Black republic. That means the highest person in the land knows that his interests and your interests are the same thing. No Black person in America could ever say, even when Barack Obama's president, because Barack Obama's interest is not with the average Black person. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, when you look at Liberia, how they was able to build a country that had no wars for most of its history, how they was able to have sovereignty, ports, port of entry law, their own customs, their own commerce, their own navy, all these things and everything like that, tall buildings, schools, institutions. They built factories, you know. They had shipping companies. They had their own wealthy class of people. They had successful planters, farmers, manufacturers. They had all those things, and they were free and they were happy. And they could tell any white person that didn't like what they and I wrote about that in my novel too. Any white person in the country that was visiting, if they don't like it, get the hell out. And they deported white people that were living there all the time, and many times beat them in the streets. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying to myself, how on? And then by the 1970s, Liberia was on the eve of industrialization. It was the most powerful Black political state in the world. Liberia brokered the Lancaster Agreement, which was ended white rule in Zimbabwe. Liberia negotiated the transfer of power of Southwest Africa from South Africa in the UN. Liberia brokered peace in the Congo and sent troops in. Liberia brokered the war in Biafra and brought the Biafra War to an end. Nasser, the conflict between the Israelis and Egypt, whatnot. Liberia was a major player in brokering a peace. So Liberia, Monrovia was a powerhouse in negotiating in the Congo, throughout Africa. It was the most powerful state. It was an elder state. All the statesmen in Africa, from Patrice Lumumba to Nelson Mandela, all of Kwame Nkrumah, all studied in Liberia under Tubman and the other different Liberian political elite. Now, with that amount of power, beautiful country. You look at Liberia, the pictures from the 1960s, beautiful hotels on the Atlantic coast, beautiful streets, beautiful cities, clean, orderly, and everything. How in the world is that so-called a failure?
It's not.
How in the world could anybody call that a failure?
It's not.
And that's why I will fight. It should
be. You know what it could be considered? It should be considered a prototype.
Yeah, it is a prototype. That's exactly what we're going to model our nation out of. You know,
right. It should be considered a prototype.
Yes. Yep. We're definitely going to pay tribute to Liberia and our new nation. You know, we're going to pay tribute to
the mindset that I really address with that really annoys me more than anything is this mindset. It's almost as if they want to drop the mic when you say, like when you talk about nationhood, they bring up Liberia and then they want to drop the mic. Like, oh wow, like you just proved some devastating point. I made this post on Facebook, and you've seen it.
Yeah.
I said Serena Williams lost. She didn't get her championship this year. What does that mean? She retired from tennis?
Only the Negro. You got to say something. The Negro, like I said in my last night's show, the child, the perpetual child. You know what I'm saying? An adult basically takes responsibility, sees where he went wrong, and he picks up and goes on. You know, we basically. So in other words, okay, boys, it's time to crawl back in on the plantation. When nationhood didn't work, let's just go back on the plantation.
One and done. Like every football team that goes out and loses a game, I guess that's it for football. We won't have to play next week. You know, if you say within those contexts, everybody understands.
Bro, I got to address this. There's a brother in the chat room, and 96 says, the only problem I have with BI concept is segregation. Why should we segregate? First of all, it's not segregation. You know,
no, segregation is not. See, this is, oh my God.
This is a misunderstanding. It's not segregation. First of all, if we go over, Africa has a political entity.
You know what? Wait. You know what, Carla? Don't even address it. We're going to address it in the overtime because I got one more to do.
Right.
And after that, we'll talk about that. Yeah, please call in, brother. It's not segregation. There's a difference between segregation and nationalism. There's a big difference. You know, segregation is what they had going over here in America.
Is South Africa and Botswana segregated from each other? No, they're two different nations with two different ways of doing things, and they respect each other's boundaries, you know?
Please call in because we got like 6 minutes on the live show, so try to call in before
you should do
10 o'clock.
You should do an hour and a half shows or 2-hour shows, man, because I believe
it depends. Cause the problem is when I'm working, you know, so I have to.
Oh, okay, you're working. Okay, long. All right.
The last one, and this is I'm gonna keep you on for this one. Mac hasn't raised his hand, so I guess he's watching the end of Empire.
Yeah, Empire. It's important.
Actually, well, there's another caller in the call queue. I don't know if that's a brother we just asked to call in. But this is the last one. This is the number one reason, or the number one escape hatch that people use to avoid nationhood. We can do it right here. That's the number one reason that I've heard. Taxes, voting, businesses, community, etc. Let me speak to that, and then I'll let you come in, Colin.
Right.
I want to run this list off for you, and this is just a short list of some of the things that we're dealing with here in America. These are articles. So if you guys want these articles, just, hit me up and let me know. But I'm just going to read you the title of the articles. I don't even have to go into depth. 30 years of black economic regression. Record, 12,202,000 black Americans not in labor force. How black middle-class kids became poor adults. The racial wealth gap, why policy matters. It's not illegal to be black. Cops complain online about white people getting freaked out by their black neighbors and wasting police time with 9/11 calls. On average, black men's prison sentences are 20% longer than white men's for the same crime. Why are there only 25 black-owned banks left in the country? Black people and white people use illegal drugs at the same rates, but black people are far more likely to be arrested for drug use. DEA was told not to enforce drug laws in rich white areas, claims former agent. African Americans are far more likely to be stopped and searched, although the contraband hit rate is higher among white people in California. And in New York, where the data isn't quite as good but appears to be comparable to California. Those wrongfully convicted and later exonerated by DNA are disproportionately African American. Black kids are far more likely to be tried as adults and more likely to receive life sentences. Black former convicts get fewer employer callbacks than white former convicts. Emily and Brendan are more hireable than Lakeisha and Jamal. Employment discrimination, the role of implicit attitudes, motivation, and a climate for racial bias. Undercover job hunters reveal huge race bias in Britain's workplaces. Does racial and ethnic discrimination vary across minority groups? Evidence from a field report. Wealth inequality has widened along racial ethnic lines since the end of the Great Recession. The roots of the widening racial wealth gap explaining the black-white economic divide. And this is my personal favorite. There are now 0 black-owned and operated full-power TV stations in our country. I'm going to stop there. There's more to go, but we're running out of time, so I want to bring in Carla.
Hey, what's up, brother?
You there?
Yeah.
I want to bring in last 4 digits 0441. I'm bringing you in.
All right.
Opening your mic.
Yo, it's Thomas.
And nobody else has their hand up, so I'm going to just deal with us. So that's it. The number one reason is we can do it right here. That's the number one escape hatch that Negroes use to avoid nationhood.
Mark just raised his hand.
Okay.
Empire must have went off. So, yeah, you want to see what he has to say.
Empire went off, Mark?
No, I was in the gym.
Oh.
And I was on the train. I'm in the street. I don't watch Empire.
I'm just messing with you.
But
yeah, so did y'all got 10, 1 through 10 or 10 through 1? Those are the top 10 excuses that Negroes use to avoid nationhood. So what do you think?
You should have some music to go along with that. You should play Public Enemy, Shut 'Em Down. Hold it now. And then play that shit while you were reading that shit off.
Exactly. I was thinking about playing Soundboy Burial while I was reading it.
No. You can't. Yo,
that's what you should have did.
No, listen. Because there's a show that I told Kyla that I was going to do in the next couple of weeks about the education hustle. And I was going to play.
We got to answer these questions. What do you guys think about his points? What do you guys think about his points?
Fuck you!
I'm sorry, fellas.
It's logic.
No, just mute your phone, Mark. You can stay on. You're still live.
All right. No, I'm good. I'm about to go in a quiet place.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what do you guys think about those points he raised? He did a dynamite show tonight. He's raising the points about excuses. 1 through 10. He just laid them down. And it was like, damn, one is Africans don't like us. One is we need a language first, or the other one.
I'll bring them down.
Right here.
I'll start it. 10 is continental Africans are coming to the States and Europe to leave the chaos already there for opportunities in America.
They're coming here for the infrastructure.
Number 9, the land must have an indigenous African name first. Number 8, we must speak in an indigenous African language first. Number 7, we didn't come from Africa, we were already here. Number 6, we must be spiritual and moral first. We must become that first. Number 5, we can't have different religions, beliefs, faiths, or spiritual systems and have a nation at the same time. Somebody better tell America that. Continental Africans don't like us. Number 4, racism and white supremacy is a global system, so no matter where you go or what you build, the white man will destroy it. And I have to put this with that, because this is a compliment to that escape hatch.
Look, boy, I'm tired of hearing about how you got knocked out and how you did this and that. And look at them straight. You still my bitch, boy. You'll always be that. On Mars, on Pluto, on the Earth, heaven, hell, you still my bitch. And I better not kiss your ass standing on no toilet peeing either.
Yeah, that has to go with that. And then we got Liberia, of course. That's the classic number 2. And then number 1, we can do it right here. That's the number 1 escape hatch that I always hear. So there it is. Where'd everybody go?
I'm right here. I mean, I think like you said, Soundboy Barry was, that's so bugging. I wanted to play that there. So, Soundboy, you got enough reason to worry. Ease up, sin. Is dead. Everything you're talking about is dead. Still that selector. Dead.
Exactly.
Dead, I tell you.
Now, did the brother who was talking about segregation, did you call in? Because if you did, hit number 1.
No, he disappeared out of the chat room. I don't know where he's at,
Maybe he called in.
That's another thing. They always hold African Americans to a higher standard. Well, you got to come and assimilate into integrate. I told this one dude, there ain't no way in the world we can integrate completely Africans. Like, we're supposed to disappear into your mediocrity and whatnot, to listen to your corruption and get the hell out. But first of all, I know our people.
I got to tell you something, Carla. I can't believe I didn't tell you this. I told Thomas up by text. I was driving. I was in a cab going to work, right?
Right.
And I was speaking to a brother. He said I don't know, for some reason he went on a rant. He said Nigerians are the worst Africans in the world. That's what he said. He said when you go to customs, he said if they'll have their hand out asking for money, and if you don't give them money, they'll put some drugs in your stuff and arrest you, and you be cut up. And like, damn, he was just going off.
The bottom line is that shit can happen to you. You do not want to get arrested in Africa. You don't want to spend one day in African jail. That shit can happen to you, You don't even want to spend 1 hour in African jail.
Did you see that documentary about I believe we were afterwards. There's this one dude. They had this game. I might have been in South Africa, and like basically, in order for you to become like high up in the gang, you had to go through an initiation process. And the last step in the initiation process is this dude. He's this buck wild. He like chews their flesh and like he beats them down and like So what happens if they don't give you the butt? I kill them. It was wild.
Oh boy.
They were wild over there. Oh my God! But look, everything we're talking about, like I said, it's really what boils down is fear the unknown, and like I said, the funny part about it is, like I think I told everyone about this back about 5 years ago, right? CNBC did a article on Africa, the last frontier. Now, if it makes it to CNBC, the word is out. So everyone else is flocking there, right, because they know what the opportunity is, except for us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I caution is this. The difference between other people and us is the fact that they're backed up by their government, and we want to do it as a Pan-African thing, and you cannot deal with Africans on the level until we have a government of our own that can speak on our behalf.
Exactly.
You know, until we have a government of our own. In the meantime, we have to basically play the American card, you know, and just do it like that. That's the only way we're going to deal with Africa, you know, because other than that, man, you can forget it. You know what I'm saying? You don't go over there talking about, yeah, I'm down with y'all, this, that, and the other thing. And the bottom line is you don't have no diplomat. You know, nobody respects you if you don't have a state. You don't have a state, you have absolutely no protection, no anything. The Jews found that out. You know, that's the first thing they did after World War II is get themselves a state. You know, what part of that don't black people in America ever understand? I believe the majority of us understand that.
There's people in the conscious community saying that we don't need a state.
Yeah, those type of people, please keep them away from me. You know,
yeah,
keep those
they saying like a brother said, oh, well, you don't need land to have a nation. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Form a motorcycle?
No, check this out. Farrakhan actually said that one time. He said, well, you don't need a piece of land to identify yourself with. And that's what he jumped the shark with me. I said, I'm
well, if that's the case, then the Decepticons must be a nation.
Yeah.
The folk nation.
You know?
You talking about gang? That's what you talking about, a gang, a set.
Yeah, gang, you know, whatever like that. You
the Tomahawks must be a nation. You know, like any group, like the Latin Kings. Anybody, like if you're wearing the same motorcycle jacket, then I guess you're a nation.
Yeah, that's a gang. That's a gang. That's a subversive group. We're talking about something real. That's why we have to separate ourselves from thing. And then the brother said something about I don't like the way BAO try to separate. Yeah, because we're talking about a geopolitical entity. You know, with our own border language defined by who we are, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. If that means us segregate, if you call it segregate, so be it. You know,
right,
everybody else
will
define themselves.
Let's deal with that while we have a little bit of time. I don't know how much time we got, but he says, I only have one problem with the BAIO concept, and that is segregation. Why should we segregate ourselves from our continental brothers and sisters? It's not we're not segregating ourselves from them. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is, if we're going to have a conversation, then it has to be on some equal terms. Because, first of all, how can you have a conversation with anybody if you don't have a nation state? What are you going to do? I'm going to go up there as just an individual and talk to a nation and talk to a government? Who am I representing beside myself?
Right.
You got to have a government. That's what I've always made the point about reparations. Reparations is supposed to be repairing a nation, not repairing individuals. So if you get reparations, it should go towards your infrastructure, your land, you know, getting your nation in order, not a check so a nigga can buy a SUV.
Yeah.
Exactly. How much time we got, Colin?
You have about 4 minutes.
Okay, so it's like the 10:15.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, man. I mean, like, what I'm trying to concentrate on is just going over the typical stuff that I hear, that is just roadblocks and just excuses and Negro stalling tactics and all the stuff, and just identifying it for what it is. Just calling it what it is. Like when I was talking about the conscious drive-by. The conscious drive-by is real. It's real. You know, it ain't just some stuff I just made up. That's an actual dynamic that's going on.
I had a beautiful conversation. Check this out. I'll say this on the air. I had a beautiful conversation with Mr. Vember and Mr. Rosenthal yesterday at conference. Mr. Vember just basically reiterated to Mr. Rosenthal, look, the government of Angola wants to hear more about African Americans coming there and settling. Yeah, that's what he said. I was almost floored by when he said that. He said I just got back from Angola and I told him about what we're talking about. He said that's exactly what they want. You know, and Rosenthal was like, well, they know all that. They know how much wealth they have and everything, but they want to know, will African Americans come there and settle in their country? You know, that's what the government of Angola. Now, the fact that we got people dragging their feet and this, that, and the other thing, I would love somebody to challenge BAL to be the premier group to lead this. You know what I'm saying? I would love to have competition. You know what I'm saying? Because black folks will win regardless. You know, but we're the only ones that are thinking on this level. You know what I'm saying? We're going to reap the
all you're going to
too.
get from many other places is resistance about how you can't do this and how you
when
can't
they
do
see
that.
it happen, everybody's going to jump on board. You know?
Yo, Thomas.
Yeah, what's going on?
Let's keep it street terms. You can either get with this, right? Like we tell people, we can either get with us. We're not trying to shun or ostracize anybody. We all trying to get people that's on the same page who want nationhood, who want socioeconomic and political control over their reality. Now you can get with this, or you can get with what you're getting in America, which is.
Yeah, I'm gonna bust you. My stuff. Bust you. I'm gonna bust you. I got to You my stuff. You my stuff.
Now, why would you want to deal with that? Why would you want to deal with that? Really? That's what you want? You want to be fighting in the jail with half dead? That's what you want?
Oh, boy.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
Know. I say this over and over again, that the relationship that a lot of people have with the United States is that of a battered woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a dude can tell a female, you ain't shit, your kids ain't shit, you ain't never going to be shit, fuck you. All right, baby, I'll have your dinner cooked. Your bathwater ready.
It's funny you should mention that because I got the symptoms right here. The abused thinks that the violence was his or her fault. The abused has an inability to place the responsibility for the violence elsewhere, and that's where that statement from Raven Simone comes from, and a lot of people online. Oh yeah, well the girl got her ass whooped by the cop. I mean that was wrong, but she should have listened to authority.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we focus in, like when the thing happened in Ferguson, instead of focusing in on the people that died, we focus in on CVS's glass. Because that's more important. CVS's glass doors is more important than a black life.
Mm-hmm.
It's really ridiculous, man.
We're about to go off the air, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a good show. I thank you all for calling. Thank you all for participating.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end the show the way that I normally do.
Peace, brother.
We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any